Hello and welcome, guys, to the fourth episode of Makes Sense. We hope you guys are doing amazing. So, for today's episode, we're going to be talking about your news and fake news and how does the information that you consume on the internet affect you. So, you guys want to let's start with discussing about the amount of fake news that's there on the internet, because in the lockdown, I'm sure that news has, because everyone's sitting at home villa, nobody has anything to do, so people come up with news stories, and most of the time a lot of the stuff that you see on the internet is false, not just about the virus and all, but in general there's a lot of fake news floating. So Jaitra, you want to go ahead and talk about all of this?
Yeah. So to begin with, we all know that media is considered as the fourth pillar of democracy, and it has such a huge impact on everything that we know about is happening around us. If we didn't have the media, if we didn't have people telling us the news, we'd be living in a dark world where we wouldn't know anything except things that happen in our social circle. For that matter, we wouldn't even know most of our information. In fact, the youth gets now on how to react to most things, or topics of discussion with friends or with new people is through news and media. And if we didn't have that, it'd be a dark world. So I agree that it's a very essential part of our daily life and our general functioning as humans now. But at the same time, I believe that be it a dictatorship, be it a democracy, the citizens do not have major control over the media. Citizens can easily be put into the bandwagon effect of following whatever news is out there by by whatever they see first, maybe, or whatever they believe the most, or whatever is the most convincing. So that's my opinion on it. And fake news is there out there. We've known that there's ton of fake news there for people to fulfill their narratives. But in the end, I'm not really sure if there's a specific way to control it or to monitor it, or for us to identify what is fake and what is not fake until you wait for a certain period of time. But the best alternative out there is just don't go and blindly start believing and telling everyone ki oh shit ye ho gaya. Matlab, you get a notification on Twitter or you get a notification on InShot, don't go and start sending forwards that very second saying ki yahi hua hai. Wait for a while, na?
Yeah, but so a lot of times, even on the internet, you have people coming in, and it's very easy for people to, like, we can give some examples of fake news in the lockdown. I just give one example. Is one news channel, for that matter, actually posted that Amitabh Bachchan has tested negative for coronavirus, and immediately Amitabh Bachchan tweeted that this is fake news, please stop spreading it. And it's just so rampant. It was a very reputed news channel, like it's quite famous, but even these big news channels are spreading. Sometimes their information is it's misreported a lot of times. So that's the. How do you guys like distinguish, and how do you know that whether this is legit or whether this is false? Because a lot of times, if I say tomorrow a big news channel, a story comes out that what they reported was fake, does it kind of harm their does it kind of harm their legitimacy as a news channel, and whether or not you'll believe them in the future if they post a story? And why you want to talk about that?
I think it definitely does harm their legitimacy, because if some well-reputed, like you said, this Amitabh Bachchan thing, I mean, it's not a small thing because he's a really like relevant person in the country, and we're reporting something, especially something related to COVID, like if it's about him testing positive or negative, that's pretty, I mean, damaging on your, like people won't believe you then if you post stuff like that, because like you said, Amitabh Bachchan retweeted and he himself clarified it. So it was like, I mean, that's a little embarrassing, honestly, on their, like for them. I'm sure it must have been. But for me, personally, I don't have like a method of verifying stuff. It just depends on what the news is about for me. And I think if like in some cases, sometimes if many news outlets have released this story, like if it's reporting someone's death and it's everywhere, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, it's true, obviously. Like for example, with Kobe Bryant's death, for me first it was a shocker. I couldn't believe it. and then I saw it on various other news channels, and then because it happened in the US, and Indian time and US time is obviously different, so I saw different news stories at different times, and then after a few hours I was like, oh, this is real. And then it hit me like after some time. It took me a while to even realize that that's true. And that's just one example. But it happens with, I mean, for me, it depends on the news, honestly, to tell if it's true, not true. Also, which news outlets am I seeing for that particular piece of news? Because I think also we tend to, or at least I do this, that I follow different sources of news for different kinds of news. And yeah, I think for me, there's no one channel in particular that I watch on TV or page that I follow on Instagram or news app. I mean, kahin se bhi aata. It can be from anywhere. For me, I don't have one particular one, so it doesn't matter so much. But I think for me, probably the one way to verify news would just be that if many places have reported it, and then it's been confirmed maybe by the person involved or by an official representative of that person, whatever the case may be, then I'm like, okay, I know it's true. Otherwise, I just wait. I don't give an immediate reaction. So I guess what I would do is, yeah, I wait to react until I know it's true, and then I'm like, okay, this is happening, and then whatever thereon has to be felt or dealt in whatever manner happens. So that's how it works for me.
There's one thing that people, whenever it's like you and I think a few people might do that, where you actually take in the news and you first at least make attempts to confirm whether or not it's legitimate, because there's a lot of one is WhatsApp is the biggest fake news machine, manufacturing machine, because
Yeah.
it's very easy for people, generally older people, but on WhatsApp they get a forward, they'll forward it to all the groups that they're members of, and then people on those groups will forward it to people, and any fake news or any fake message like that, just like it goes like wildfire. Because one is, first of all, I can type any message today and send it on any, like all the WhatsApp groups I'm a member of, and then whoever wants to forward it will forward it, and then people will actually start believing that. You'll have you'll have certain fake notions also in the Indian, like, spread throughout. So I was actually researching this on the page of Zomato, where they had written a case study on their own page. And they spoke about during the coronavirus, initial stages of coronavirus, there was a rumor in India that poultry and chicken and all those products spread the virus,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
actually
yeah.
hurt the demand of poultry products in India very massively. And there wasn't any confirmed report on whether or not this spreads the virus. But now, you'll have some WhatsApp forward coming in. I have on my, like, I am part of some family groups where these messages will come in, and it will be like, a recording of a doctor talking about coronavirus on a call. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
most, like, you must have come across something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. For
And
sure.
how do you even confirm the legitimacy of such news? Because anyone can go in and spread whatever they want. Like, are you even sure the person whose voice you're hearing is a real doctor?
You know
Are
what
you
was
even
good with
sure?
this though? What was good with these WhatsApp forwards that were going around, especially in the beginning? So the Mumbai police and my BMC Instagram and Facebook pages were damn active. I mean, sorry, not Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
Hmm.
So when fake news stories like these were going very
Yeah,
viral, they were like make confirming that okay, this is true or this is not true.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think they did a good job with that because it was such a time where anything could be believed as true. And like you said, bro, the non-veg thing is true. I think initially when I had that thing because my parents said कि अरे ये वो तो we didn't have any. I mean anyway now I don't, but at that time we didn't even bring in any at home, so it was like a thing. And then of course later on it was said that that's not a confirmed thing.
Hmm.
But what I think, at least in this case, the good thing was that my BMC and Mumbai police
Yeah, yeah.
did a good job in confirming whether these things were true or not. And it was
I've noticed
needed
that
because
throughout the
the
lockdown
times
they've
were
been
such
doing
that,
that. Like,
yeah,
there've been like fake lockdown messages which have been
so
circulating, which
many.
they are
Fake
so many which
guidelines
were
also, dude,
confirmed.
like fake guidelines about whether things are open or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was essential that this time they were confirmed. And so, I mean, they made a good use of social media. So, I guess that could be one method of verifying news that official government organization like the police, obviously, and the BMC confirms it. So, yeah, that was one thing. That's what happened, at
So,
least with these rumors on WhatsApp.
One more big
so
concern is that fake news during elections, because especially during elections, if
Hmm.
fake news spreads, it's one, I find it very disturbing personally, because these people are going and voting a government. They're voting
Yeah.
a government which is going to govern you and make national policies for your
Yeah.
economy, for your national security, all of this for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you have fake news, if you have fake news scandals,
Yeah.
first of all, we Indians are very impressionable as like voters. Very few people. One is obviously you have your preconceived notions about who you're going to vote for and which party you obviously support. But in say rural areas, or if you're uneducated and you're not very well versed about thinking about what kind of leader would be good for you,
Yeah.
anyone can come and feed you any information. You'll do whatever they
Yeah.
want, right?
They play with your emotions by
Yeah.
pitching you
So
some narratives or news
this
stories.
this becomes very dangerous during election time, especially because anyone will come in and feed you anything, and you might actually end up not electing someone who is worthy of or who can actually help you. And it's very, I find that quite disturbing personally. I mean, Jetsa, you want to talk about that because I know you've spoken a lot about this in the past with me.
So for me, it's very simple. Uh, this entire flood and this pool of news that comes out during elections or comes out during any big occasion in general when something has to be something has to take place. It's very simple that what so one thing what I've done now is all my news I get organically.
Hmm.
I don't open news channels. I don't open news apps on my phone. So all news I get is mostly organically, which I feel is working well for me because then it is filtered out, सब चुन के, and then I know कि हाँ भी यही है, and that's the news I want to take consume honestly. I don't want to be someone who wants to just be like हाँ मेरे को सब news पता है, but उसमें से nine news that I'm spreading out, 9 out of 10 that I'm spreading out is just bullshit. It's like
Hmm.
it's a simple example and analogy of atomic energy. If used resourcefully by a resourceful person, it can create electricity. But if given in the hands of a terrorist, it can create a bomb. It's that simple.
Wow, wow, wow.
सही सही बात है भाई. That's a true thing.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
it's I don't think as a 18-year-old or a 19-year-old I can do much about this.
Hmm.
Matlab, in the end, my vote will come down to my preconceived notion of what I feel about the party's ideology or the leader's ideology.
Hmm.
Scams though might be
But
on
very
both ends. It's just of who pays more and who gets their information out first,
Yeah.
or builds up, or whatever bullshit happens out there. That's another topic altogether. But like I don't feel that I can give a solution to this, or I can even bring about any change as an 18 or 19-year-old student to fake news out there, because it is not controlled by me. It's controlled by those big daddies out there who just have 1,000, 10,000 times more resources than I do.
Also, one more thing is, I know I like what you said, Jethro, was about you not being able to control this news because obviously it's not in anyone's control. Your fake news comes in and all of that. Personally, I mean, you need to have, because whatever news you consume, whether fake, whether genuine, well, does have an impact on your the way you think and your psyche, subconsciously or even subconsciously. Because like you gave that example of the non-veg thing, where even you were kind of worried about that. If someone comes and gives you any news, it obviously is going to play at the back of your mind. And if it's somewhat alarmist and you're worrying about it too much, then you tend to start worrying about it. And especially during this lockdown, since we are all so idle,
Mm-hmm.
we are always worrying about something or the other. When you're only, if I'm only say following coronavirus news, seldom anything positive. So I tend to have only a negative impact, and I start thinking oh no, shit, this is the end of the world, because all the news I'm consuming is so negative. Because because you're not consuming anything positive. You're not seeing any positive things. It's not just news, it's just the amount of the stuff that you consume from social media also.
Mm-hmm.
If you're consuming positive things, you tend to be a more positive person. If you're consuming negative and toxic things, you'll become that
There's a
sort of
there's
a
a
person.
very famous line about news channels that they say is, if news channels stop giving bad news, they won't have a channel to run.
Hmm.
So
Because
their business is based on giving, like if you keep
tragedies.
If you keep doing good news, I don't think we'll see the news. Although I like watching good news more than I like watching
Yeah.
bad news.
See,
I think in reporting there needs to be a balance. Like you said, dude, the bad news thing it's true, but like there should just be, I don't know, dude. There needs to be some kind of balance and like see, bad news and good news to I mean sorry, bad and good things to keep happening. But then comes what needs to be reported and what doesn't need to be reported. It's just that majority of the news channels focus only on one, either
yeah.
good or bad. Like you said, good about the government, only good, and bad, matlab only bad things happening in the world.
Yeah,
There's,
you always,
I
we
don't think
have
there's
those kind of
really
news
one best.
channels. I mean, some
Yeah.
like ultra only good stuff, only right wing, and one is only opposition, only bad things. But yeah, this brings me to my next thing to talk about is it's very difficult to be diplomatic when you're reporting any information, not just news, but when you're giving any information which could be opinionated or anything. It's very hard to be diplomatic because most people are victims of confirmation bias. And so,
I know, but it's
just in
just
case you don't know what a confirmation bias is, it's essentially if you have a preconceived notion about something, you tend to consume information which fits that notion of yours. And most of your information that you have will be kind of homogeneous. It will very rarely be heterogeneous unless you're that kind of a person. I mean, if you do, you might relate. But many people are, victims of this. So my question to both of you is it really, I mean, how hard is it to be, diplomatic in all of this? Both of you, anyone wants to go.
I believe that in the case of I'll talk about news media, like media channels later, but talking about influencers who put out their views, there are some things that you just strongly believe about, and when public is looking at you, as in this is for influencers I'm talking, um, it's not easy to deal with the comment section. Like when people just keep saying that some people they do not post political views at all, and those who are don't show uh, diplomacy, because then they are people just start calling them as you know putting their head on both sides and just not having a firm opinion, which also reflects in a negative way. Now you need to understand this person is an individual himself. He is obviously also going to think about how it affects him, and he'll be very careful on what he says and the amount of things he's saying on both ends, and that personally affects him, which will obviously affect his family and what people talk about his family or do to his family, let alone the country that he'll think or the society that he'll think about first. News and media channels, what I believe happens is it might be money, it might be some other incentives, but we've also had journalists in the past who've done honest reporting and have been threatened, gotten death threats, have been killed as well. So you can't just say it's monetary incentives. Plus, if some people just have a perspective, I don't believe the entire news channel should reflect that perspective. I mean, the anchor can, which he's not supposed to. An anchor is not supposed to show opinions ideally. The guests he brings have to put up the opinion, right? Or else the news that is there, you're supposed to analyze that. But the moment you put a bias to it, you're killing journalism.
And I think majority of the news channels today do that. Like I don't really see that many news channels having anchors or people who are moderating debates or discussions where they don't just ask the questions but they also give their opinions. Like majority of them to do that. And that's, I mean, I don't really like that because then what is the point? I mean, you're guiding the debate or the discussion in a certain direction that you want it to be in, and then it kills the point of the discussion. Like Jethro said, I agree with that.
But a lot of time, because people, whenever anyone says anything, it's usually you say it from your eyes and you already have a certain opinion. So it's also not, so you can also, I'll give you another example. You can also report news or you can report information which is factual, but you can also make it, opinionated, but just by using certain adjectives. So
Yeah.
there is one news channel which, again, I won't name, but during this entire coronavirus thing has been completely anti-China, and the way they describe,
Oh, I know this.
yeah, but the way they named the virus and everything. See, you're reporting news, fair enough. I mean, it could be factual, like your numbers and everything, factual. But then the way you're describing the adjectives you're using, obviously, subconsciously get people to think in a certain way. Get people to hate certain groups, love certain groups, hate certain countries, fall in love with certain countries. Most of the time when you're talking, not just news channels, just individuals in general, like if you're talking to a friend, your friend will always have a certain opinion. So whenever you're getting all this information, people's opinions are attached to it. Even news channels, news channels ideally should not have an opinion attached to the news, because you're reporting at the end of the day. That's essentially, this happened and I'm telling you what happened. But then you have a lot of news channels, which will attach to, this happened and this is what I feel about it, and this is now what you should feel about
Yeah.
Have you noticed this? I've noticed this difference when I was watching, when you watch American news or you watch something like an Al Jazeera or something. The reporter is just reading news.
Yeah.
They aren't giving an analysis. They are reading news. So like news channels are like a visual, a video format, while newspapers are more of reading and for people who are more literate.
Yeah.
But that's what I've noticed. Indian channels, they give their opinion. There's always drama. There's always spice. But with the American channels or channels abroad, usually the opinions are from the staunch guests that come from both ends of the. If you notice, that's how news should be.
Some American channels are like Indian channels, but the major, global ones, not even American ones, so the global news channels usually are quite, diplomatic in their views. I mean, there are some Indian news agencies which are quite diplomatic. I mean,
like there's a difference between assertion and exclamation, and that's what news channels should find the gap. But again, it's not that simple. It's not up to their choice, I guess. It's if they disagree to.
There's again some, economics behind it.
Yeah,
it's again a
politics,
business.
economics,
They have to
everything.
money.
Yeah.
Okay, now we come to social media news. So again, social media pay during the lockdown, there have been so many pages. There have been so many even big viral things that have gone viral, that your friends post on their stories. Everyone posts on their stories. One was the locker room thing, went super viral. When the locker room scandal was happening, because of just like the facts for the entire case were changing on a day by day basis. Like one day something else, next day something completely different. Like after a week, the facts were completely like, you've lost the entire story, and then there was an alternate story which was mixed up with the original story, which was of that some girl's locker room part or something which wasn't related to that. So so much information and so much conflicting information, and it's most of the people who are consuming this are our age, and they're affected, and you start thinking about all of that, and you have these people making videos on Instagram about what they feel about it. They have those 10-minute IGTV events about it. People putting stories with a lot of stuff to read, which probably people getting angry on social media in general.
What happens is, now I'll give you an example. It's suppose all of us are on Instagram, right? So suppose now one day I decide to go and put a story on Instagram saying Anwar kicked me in the crotch and it's bullying. Okay, he's been bullying me for a year or something, and he does this regularly, and it's just
regularly. Thanks. Go on.
It's just violating my mental health. Now my friends will start reposting that story saying, Anwar Dikshit, you suck. Why the hell are you doing this? Your friends will defend you saying, I know Anwar Dikshit in so many years. Anwar is not like this. So in the end, it's so easy for me. And these things happen. Do good things, they do bad things as well. Like you can post good news and put a positive message out there. You can put a bad news and screw around with people. So it's mostly to create drama. Most of it is just to create controversy.
Yeah. That's the positive negative aspect of the social media though, because it's like you can put correct things also and helpful things for people, but at the same time negative things can also see the light of the day and become like viral stories that catch a lot of fire, and it can be, I mean, the talk of the town, and you don't even know agar wo sahi hai ki nahi. And like you said about the boys locker room thing, I mean, various facts came out later that we didn't no one knew, like it's just hard, like it's really hard.
Some things, like I agree, like for example, if you're talking about women's rights or you're talking about LGBTQ, then there's a standard opinion that most people have, right? That what is right, what is what is wrong. And it's safe to say that most people have now in the at least uh, in the rational society in India, or even who are irrational, they still are aware that I can't say that women's rights are not important. Because when the locker room thing happened, there was women's rights being spoken about and respecting women. At the same time, when the girls' locker room came out, it was about equality. It was about why is feminism being put up above gender equality in general, or
And it
the
became,
I
it
mean
became a battle of two genders.
genders,
That entire thing
which
became a
was,
battle of the sexes.
It
and
kind of
people
went away
forgot.
from the original issue also.
Because even on social media, like summarizing everything that Jethro and Anwar both said, is people generally they look for some social media traction, because nowadays most issues on social media, it what is viral is what is important, and then you lose the actual story. Because your Instagram and all, it can be a really helpful tool for you. Like if you genuinely are suffering from something, or if you're in a house with someone actually troubling you, and you put a story about it, that story becomes viral. The
Exactly.
authorities might actually come in, and this might actually benefit you. I mean, I've actually seen stories of this one lady. She was she was kind of like differently able, and she had
Hmm.
to, this was during the lockdown, and she had to go to the hospital
Hmm.
because her prosthetic broke. So she actually tweeted the Mumbai police, and the Mumbai
Hmm.
police actually sent her a car to her house to actually drop her to the
Hmm.
hospital. Like, you know the social media can be used for such good things, but then you also have people posting fake stuff, because this brings me to the next thing,
People are so irritated and frustrated, in their lives, that it's their insecurities
especially
that
during
they,
period the lockdown, because
exactly, people are
pent
just
up
so,
frustration.
just going and removing their insecurities on other people's pages, spreading hate, spreading
Mm.
controversy still to buzz up numbers. I feel by most people that happens. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like to increase your like you said, traction towards your page or towards something. People usually
Mm.
even, and we know that through clickbaity titles as well, right? That people use clickbait titles to attract more people.
Mm.
But that's the entire point of it. Like,
That's the bad part of social media.
100%. And I feel still our generation, like at least the semi-urban and urban population and the youth of this country, we know we need to be responsible. It's being inculcated in our thinking and in our thought process that you at least have to be moral, because we are so fed up of seeing our nation. I feel
No,
our
it's
youth
also
has
because
this.
our elders have always said, you guys are millennials, you're going to change the world.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
have that in us ever since.
we do. India has the youngest working population in the world, right?
Correct.
And I believe that, and a lot of people have also said that India really needs to screw up to not be a superpower by 2050. But that's what I believe, and I think our youth and our semi-urban youth is completely aware of all of that is happening. It's just that we need, and that's what we are doing through our platform.
Please start thinking. That's our main idea is,
We
you know,
allow ourselves to have our own opinions. Like basically, it's I think in the previous generation there wasn't that much freedom to think or have your own opinion, and I think that's the major difference, that we don't let anyone else tell us like
I
what
think we're
we
a
should do.
generation of rebels. We're a generation of
Yeah,
rebels
you
where we
can say
want to
so,
just,
but rebels in a good way, because this
in
is
a good
actually
way,
how it should be.
100%.
Because I mean, why not? You should have your own opinion. Everyone should be inspired and motivated to think on their own. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone says, right, we're unique individuals, everyone's different. So then
Hmm.
yeah.
even your thoughts and your thinking process is different.
So
and we
like,
and we
our
genuinely.
idea with this is, we don't expect you to have what, like, think along the same lines that
Hmm.
we think, or have the same opinions that we do, but we at least hope that after this you start thinking about what we've spoken about, and maybe develop your own opinion.
It's so simple that, guys, we're not a generation of people who now create biases on the basis of, or have mental stereotypes about people are such caste, from this caste, this religion, so they will behave like that. We are not that generation of people. We have seen what it does to peop the world around us and to
Yeah.
our country as such. And I feel internally as youngsters, we're so fed up of seeing our nation on the back foot, as you know, been 70 years we've seen Europe
70
and
years we've only been fighting about, caste,
hmm,
like communities, religion. Like
exactly,
we've just
like
been
our
fighting about
internal divisions of we are so fed up as the youth that when we see, but that's what I'm very proud of as well, that on social media that's what it's doing good, because most opinions on social media are now about
very
stop
positive.
stop caring about all of this, it
Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't matter, there are more things to care about and there are better things
yeah.
to care about. So that's what we intend to even do with this entire community and want you all to be a part of it.
So I think we've reached the end of the discussion for today. We've covered various topics regarding to news. We've covered fake news, how to filter your news, social media news, and viral news stories. I mean, we've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I think it was a really fruitful discussion because we learned a lot from each other. We hope we made some sense to you as well through this discussion. So thank you so much once again for tuning in with us. We hope we made some sense to you. You know the drill. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think, because we think it's very important that we know what our viewers think about us, about the topics that we discuss, and it really makes us happy if we see your comments and you show us some love and share your opinions with us. We're always open to some discussions. And thank you once again, and see you later. Bye bye.